just give it another minute. I think I just had a couple of messages through saying people are jumping on. So I want to give everyone the opportunity to get on from the start. I had a couple of questions just around the microphone being muted. So I think by joining, it's automatically muted for you. But if you could just ensure that you can keep it on mute. If it does give you the opportunity to unmute it, if you keep it on mute just to keep the background noise down, that would be great. Okay, I think we've got to a stage where we've got everybody who wanted to join has now joined us. So we've got 171 so far. So great to welcome you all to first club webinar that we've run, and I hope you're all well and staying safe during this period, and hope your families are well as well, and hope you enjoy the webinar and find it useful. As I said, we are going to be recording the webinar, so if you do have to dash off at any point or need to leave at any point, then you will get a recording of this, so you won't miss anything. Okay, so as I've touched upon about the muting of the microphone, I think it's already done it for us. So so hopefully there won't be too much background noise and you can all hear me clearly. I don't think it'll give you the opportunity to have your camera on, but if you did have that, you don't have to turn it on. And as I already touched upon, we will be recording the webinar, so we will share this with you on a shared drive, so you can watch it in your own time. If you do miss anything or just wanted to check anything again. In terms of questions, there should be a Q&A facility on your toolbar. If you have got any questions during the presentation, please type them in that Q&A box, and then we will try and answer them as we go along through the presentation. We'll try to avoid a big Q&A session at the end, just because we could have a high volume of questions. So please type them in and we'll try and answer them as we go along, just to make sure that we can give you as much information straight away. Some of the questions, hopefully, that you will ask may well get answered later on in the presentation as well. So you hopefully will see that as we move forward. So just to give you an overview of what we're going to cover tonight. So I'm just going to give you a brief introduction into the changes that we're making in terms of the club accreditation program and the rationale for why that's taken place. I'm going to run through what the club accreditation program will now look like on the Comet system, and give you insight into how that will look operationally and visually. I'll highlight some other operational changes to the program as well, just for you to be aware of. We've got Andy Lewis from the coach education team here to talk about some updates in relation to coach education, and also because of the high volume of clubs that we've got on the webinar this evening, just going to touch upon an update on some COVID-19 specific support that's relevant to you as clubs as well. And then I will touch upon the results of the Lego quiz right at the end, so a bit of an incentive for you to stick with us. So just to set the scene around the changes to the operation of the club accreditation program. So following the implementation of the Comet system this season, although it does feel like last season, we're still in this season technically, it is now mandatory for all clubs to register their teams, coaches, staff and officials to their club account. This obviously creates some significant duplication with the registration of coaches, staff and officials in particular on the club accreditation data capture workbook that all of you as clubs have used this season. So we undertook a bit of a review around whether all club accreditation information could be captured via the Comet system. And the review highlighted that all the information can be captured via the system, all audits can be completed via the system, which subsequently led us to us being in a position to use the COMET system for next season's club accreditation. So I want to just highlight to you how it's going to work operationally, but also visually, so you can see what the different stages of the process will look like. One of the things I want to highlight is there will be some work that you'll have to do as clubs pre-application. So before you can submit your club accreditation application, you will need to be in a position where all your official staff and coaches are registered on your COMET club account, so in accordance with COMET guidelines. The registration for official staff and coaches is free, and they will receive free personal accident insurance cover, which is the same level of cover as the players receive. Only coaches that are registered will be permitted to coach in the 2020-21 season, and only registered officials will be given access to the COMET system. You also need to be in a position to register all your team information in accordance with COMET guidelines. So all team information should also include all your girls teams and disability teams if they come under your banner as a club. So obviously that will impact on your accreditation level if you do not include all your club's teams on your COMET club account. Now, the COMET team have already registered over 3,000 teams on the system. However, there are still a number of clubs still to register their remaining teams. So there will be some guidance and some further information that we released on these processes shortly by the COMET team, and I'll touch upon that a little bit later in the presentation. One of the things I want to emphasize is only the information contained on COMET will be assessed when we review a club's accreditation level. So the information that's contained on your COMET club account will be the information that we review and audit to award you a particular level. So how do you access your applications on the COMET system? So we will create an application for you as a club, and you will receive an email to notify you that that application is now open and that you're in a position to start processing and inputting information related to that application on the COMET system. So this is how it would look on the COMET system. So in terms of your COMET account, you would log in as normal. You click on the license application section and then click on My Applications, and the application related to your club should come up in that My Application section. And what you'll notice is the club accreditation application will be related to one of the leagues that you can compete in. So don't be too concerned if it doesn't relate to the 3 leagues that you compete in terms of your boys, your minis and your junior girls teams, for example. It would only be applicable to one of the leagues that you participate in. But it would be a league-specific accreditation application. And this is what the application will look like in terms of an overview. So you'll see that you've got the entered box in red there. There are actually 4 stages on the application process. So we have entered, which means that we've sent the club application for the club to begin. We have in progress, which means clubs have started inputting information but are not ready to submit. Submitted means that the application has been submitted for auditing. And once submitted, clubs can no longer amend their applications. That's really important to note. And confirmed means that FAW Trust has audited the application and it's been confirmed and a level has been awarded. Clubs can save progress on the application, so they don't have to complete it in one go, and that they can save it over a period of time. So they can start as soon as they receive access to the application, and they can submit at any point when they feel that their information is ready to be submitted. Critically, that would probably be guided by the coaches that are registered on the system and have subsequently been confirmed on the COMET system. Once you're in a position where your coaches, staff and officials and your teams are confirmed, then you should be in a position where you could complete the majority of your application. Just want to highlight these 3 boxes here. So the expert summary is where we would populate what accreditation level you've received as a club, and I'll show you an example of how that would look a little bit later. Licensing manager comment would be the action plan that we would detail for your club to achieve a higher level within the programme. So if you're currently a bronze club, we would detail what you would need to get in place and achieve to be awarded a silver accreditation level. And then the club comment section is for you as a club to add in any specific information that you would want us to be aware of, or that you may just want to highlight for yourselves, just to assess any particular progress or any particular information that you may want to review. And I'll just highlight these are the 5 stages of the application process. I'll go through each stage with you now. In terms of what we call CAP 1, CAP 1 is what we term our club management section. And this is where you would input the information related to the other leagues that your junior teams may be affiliated to. It'll also ask whether you comply with the committee structure that we've outlined as a minimum, so in terms of chairperson, secretary, treasurer and safeguarding officer. And it's also an opportunity for you to detail your club ambitions. So what does your club want to achieve over the next 12 months? And then you can add that in as a text box there. One of the things you may notice is we've got some criteria in red and some in black. So red is actually a mandatory criteria. So the minimum requirement for clubs to achieve is standard award. And the criteria in red reflects the criteria for standard award. Black then is optional for higher level criteria or for additional information. So in terms of the black criteria, in this case, some clubs may only be participating in one league, and that league has already been identified as part of their club accreditation access application. So they may not have any other leagues that their junior teams affiliate to, so they don't necessarily have to complete that section. The second phase of the application is what we term our club workforce section. So what you'll notice here, there isn't any text box or any section for you to type in any of this information. All of this information in this section is generated as a report from the information that you input under your club section. So under your club commit account, the coaches and the officials that you register in that section, they all can be automatically transferred as a report into this section. So you won't have to duplicate any data entry or add the same name and same details in twice. They will automatically generate a report from your Comet Club account into your club accreditation application. And this is an example of how it would look. So in terms of your club secretary, this is an example of a test club that we've set up. The information from the test club Comet account that we've established is then automatically transferred through the click of a button, and that is then ready for submission under this section. Under club provision, we've got the list of club mini and junior teams. This is also a report that is generated from your Comet Club account. So again, you won't have to duplicate data entry in this section. The critical thing here is that even though it says list of club mini and junior teams, it will also detail youth and senior team information, which may be applicable for clubs who are trying to achieve gold and platinum level, because that's part of the criteria at those particular levels. If you haven't got clubs of youth and senior level within your club, there's an opportunity for you to detail if you've got a relationship with a partner club who provides that opportunity, which again is an opportunity or an option for you to achieve gold and platinum criteria. In terms of the facility section, this is an additional section that we've added in for this particular application. Again, because it's black, it's not mandatory, but we wanted to try and capture information on where your club trains and what facilities they use for training, also what facilities they use for playing, and also what off-pitch facilities your club has access to. So whether you own those facilities or have access to them through a lease agreement, then it would just be interesting to know the level of those facilities, as this will help guide us in terms of the facility requirements moving forward with our clubs, and are in a position to assess what level and quality of facilities our clubs are using. The club policies and procedures section is all a tick box and a check box section. So we have a series of questions here that are part of the criteria at the moment. As you'll notice, the majority of this section is all in red, and this relates to the standard award criteria, as I mentioned earlier. There is an opportunity for you to upload the safeguarding policy, your club's personal safeguarding policy. It is a black criteria there, so it's an optional for you as a club to add that in, so you don't have to. But there are check boxes there for you to say whether you adhere to the codes of conduct, or ask questions around whether you have certain policies and procedures in place. In terms of club contact information, there's an option for you to add the contact information into your Comet Club account, which will then generate a report similar to the coaches and officials and the teams aspect. You can generate a report straight into this application without you having to duplicate data entry, or you can type in the specific club website or your Twitter account into the text boxes that are relevant to the social media or the website that you already have in place. The reason that we've asked for this information, some of you will be aware of our club accreditation map on our FAW Trust website. We want to ensure that the contact details are as correct and as up to date as possible, so that we can be in a position to signpost interested parents and players to your particular club and ensure that they have the right contact details and the right information for them to make contact with you as clubs. We get a lot of people going towards our club accreditation map to find their nearest club, and we want to make sure that we can signpost them appropriately to the club provision nearest to them. One of the issues that we've found with the data capture workbook is the number of errors and the missing information that we've received with the Excel workbooks. The red criteria that I've highlighted to you previously, because they are mandatory criteria, any piece of information related to those red criteria, if they're not submitted or any information isn't added to those particular questions or sections, they will flag up through the system, and it means then that you will be aware of what particular section of the application that you would need to complete or add information into. This will hopefully reduce the number of errors in applications and ensure that the auditing process will be far more efficient, and we can award clubs accreditation levels in far quicker time. In terms of then submitting an application, once you're comfortable with the information that's on your application, you would then be in a position where you're ready to submit the application, and then you'd get a box in the corner there to say that that transaction is successfully executed, and then your status would be changed to submitted on your accreditation application. So that would be sent to the FAW Trust to be audited. You would also receive notification that you've submitted that club accreditation application to the FAW Trust. We would also get a notification to state that that license application has been submitted for us to audit as well. So we'll be in a position where we'll know via email that a number of clubs have submitted their club accreditation applications on a particular date, and we can prioritise them in terms of the audit process. In terms of the audit, as I said, we've utilised the reports that are generated by the Comet system based on the information that is inputted on the Comet system by you as clubs. And we will determine an accreditation level through that information. This is an example of the expert summary, licence manager comment, and possible club comment sections that I highlighted earlier. So we will use the expert summary section to identify the accreditation level. We will also then detail your action plan as a club and what you'd need to have in place to achieve the next level. And we will also maybe highlight some information that may be relevant to you as clubs, particularly in relation to any DBS that are due to expire mid-season, that would need to be updated as soon as possible, so that you would be aware that you would need to submit a new DBS application for a particular individual. We would then confirm that application if we were comfortable, or we have the opportunity to return accreditation applications for clubs to amend their application. And that would then change the application status to in progress. So it would allow you then to amend your application for you then to submit or resubmit that application for us to the audit. Just wanted to highlight something in relation to pan-disability clubs, in particular for next season. So those disability clubs who are currently standalone disability clubs, standalone disability clubs do not have to register on the COMET system for their players, so they will be permitted to complete the data capture workbook instead of a COMET club accreditation application if they wish. So they have the option of completing the two purely because they're not on this COMET system already. They don't necessarily have a club account and they don't have to register their players on that system. For disability teams that are part of a wider club and they're part of a bigger organisation, and that club is registered on the COMET system, then the disability team should be included on their whole club's application. Apologies there, I think there's a section missing, but that would be the similar case, just to reiterate, around girls teams. So if you had a big club that had boys teams, girls teams and disability teams, it should all be submitted under the one club application. Just to highlight some other operational changes for you to be aware of. As part of the change with coach education expiry dates that Andy's going to touch upon in his section, we've actually removed the January mid-season accreditation window. So the accreditation window will only be in the summer, and that will award your accreditation level for the whole season. We've also increased the standard award threshold for compliance teams. So it used to be at 50%. For next season, it will be at 60%. So at least 60% of the club's teams need to have reached standard award for the whole club to be awarded standard award. If they're less than 60%, then the club will be unaccredited. If they're less than 100 but above 60, then the club will be awarded standard award, but specific teams that aren't compliant will be determined as non-compliant and will not be permitted to play junior football until they achieve compliance. And the third thing for you just to be aware of in terms of any appeals related to accreditation decisions, previously it would need to be raised with their area association. Now it would be raised directly with the FAW Trust. In terms of timelines, we recognise that we're in unprecedented times at the moment and that it's likely to have an effect on club accreditation submission timelines and deadlines. If it was a typical season, we'd be looking at a club accreditation window in 1st of June with a deadline of the 23rd of August. We recognise that those timelines are going to need to be adjusted. One of the things that just want to recognise as well is that the extent to the timeline and deadline amendments will be assessed once the situation related to the virus becomes clearer. So we're not in a position to give guidelines or guidance on what those timelines and deadlines will look like. But please bear in mind that we will be as flexible as possible with you as clubs to ensure that you are in a position to submit an appropriate accreditation application for the season ahead. One area that's quite exciting and that's coming in this season, that clubs will be in a position to be rewarded a tiered package of kit and equipment for submitting a club accreditation application by a specific deadline. And then if they're awarded an accreditation level with that submission, then they will be eligible for a tiered package of kit and equipment. So if they submit an accreditation application by a specific deadline and are subsequently awarded bronze level, then they will achieve, they'll be awarded a certain level of kit and equipment. If they achieve platinum level, they'll be rewarded with a significantly bigger package of kit and equipment than a bronze level. So it will be tiered based on their accreditation level. Just to highlight some next steps. So as I mentioned before, the webinar will be recorded and you will get access to the recording. I'll also share a copy of the presentation with all clubs. In terms of the COMET updates, within the next 2 weeks, there'll be further detail on the next steps in terms of processes and timelines in relation to the COMET system for next season. And that should address the majority of questions. If there's still questions after the communication update, then you're encouraged to share those queries and questions through the COMET inbox, through cometsupport@faw.co.uk. We're in the process of putting together video and user guides to support you as clubs in completing your online club accreditation application, and also supporting you to get the preparation work done ready for you to submit your application. So in terms of registering your coaches, officials and staff, as well as your teams, those user guides will be available as well. We'll also ensure that the access to your club accreditation application will be as soon as we know a little bit more around deadlines and timelines for the season ahead. And we will also confirm the wider rewards package that will be available, and the tiered rewards package based on accreditation levels that will be available for next season. So I've highlighted one of the rewards previously. We've also got our other rewards that are available, that have been available this season, and we hope to be in a position to confirm those for next season as soon as possible. So I'll just pass you over now to Andy Lewis, who's Level 1 Coach Education Manager, who's just going to highlight and share some updates related to coach education.
Brilliant, thanks Aled, and good evening all. Just to echo Aled's sentiment at the start of the call, hope everyone's keeping safe and well. So just to give everyone a brief update around coach education, particularly Level 1, and what that means in the current circumstances, given the virus is currently ongoing. Our grassroots awards are still available in the main, particularly our Football Leaders Award. Hopefully you will all be aware and have seen on the various different communications that have gone out to the clubs and the leagues. The Football Leaders Award can still be completed in full online. So the award we were able to move quite quickly on and make that award available to every coach in Wales on an online format. So coaches will still complete the same 5 online modules pre-practical day, but we also have the course filmed and packaged up now. So the exact same practical content that a coach would go through on the practical day has been filmed and can be relayed to the coaches within that same learning environment. Obviously changes slightly, so they don't see the content face to face, but they do see exactly the same practical sessions they would do on the practical day of the course. So we still encourage any coaches who need to or want to access that course to do so in the same manner. On the next slide, which we'll put up shortly, it'll show you where that appears on the website currently. Still booking takes place in the same manner in terms of the website, fawcourses.com, and at the same price. Our FAW Safeguarding Award is very close also now to being ready to be packaged up and available online for all coaches to access. Again, that'll cover the exact same content and the exact same format in terms of 3-hour workshop of the award. So coaches won't miss any information in terms of how the awards are packaged up. And we're really pleased in terms of how we're able to now continue to support coaches in Wales, and particularly our grassroots coaches, with the necessary qualifications during this kind of period of inactivity. The third award that sits at Level 1 is our FAW First Aid Award. And this is the award that we have looked into in detail with both Agored, our awarding body, and partners through the Welsh Government. But that unfortunately we can't place online due to the nature of the award and the informal assessment criteria, where we've got to see all candidates carry out the various practice and processes involved with first aid. We do need to measure that competence with a face-to-face contact. So for the time being, we're unable to manage that in online format, but 2 out of the 3 awards can still be covered on an online basis. In terms of that First Aid Award, I've seen it pop up in one of the questions already online, and how we manage that shortfall. We've already looked at that in terms of when we do return to some sort of normality, or at least when restrictions are lifted and we can start delivering courses again. And we will look at some of the bigger venues that we've got around the country and look to deliver en masse. So where we can bring 3-4 tutors together and hold bigger courses at some of our bigger venues. We've already started to identify some of those bigger sites across Wales. And obviously, as and when it's right to do so, and we can bring people together, then we'll certainly look to do so when it's safe to do that. In terms of our suspension around delivery of coach education courses, in terms of face-to-face contact, we've got a suspension in place on the delivery of all courses up to and including Friday the 3rd of July. So that suspension means that we can't deliver face-to-face courses. So we can't meet at a leisure centre, a football club, and deliver in our traditional format. That doesn't negate the need to then go and deliver in our online format, which we'll still continue to do. In terms of pushing that information out through various different methods, such as this evening, hopefully we can reach as many different clubs and coaches and leagues to let them know what is available. But please do, you'll see my contact details to the right of the screen there. Please take a note of the contact details. If you do need any further information, drop me an email or obviously follow us on Twitter if you can at FAWCoachEd. We have put together, which Aled has alluded to, a revalidation document also, which will hopefully answer many of the questions that you may have around qualifications expiring as of this December. So we're fully aware that there'll be a number of coaches out there that want to register for the new season that were hoping to revalidate their existing qualifications prior to 31st of December 2020. We will be extending that period that a candidate or coach can hold that qualification for an extended period to 31st of May 2022. The FAQs document, which we can share with all coaches following this call, should hopefully answer all of those queries and give a timeline for coaches, not only due to expire this year, but also over the next 2-3 year period as well, and a rationale as to why we've extended that period of revalidation. We hope that answers a lot of the questions that you may have around revalidation. We are working hard behind the scenes in terms of that revalidation process for all coaches at level 1 and level 2, so Football Leaders Award holders and C certificate holders, to now look at an online format for revalidation also. We still do value greatly that face-to-face contact, and we still want to continue to support our Welsh coaches more than ever. But obviously this current time, we can't do that, so we are looking at other formats. And the online world is allowing us to do that even more so. Contact details, self-explanatory, you can see there. The other little bit of good news to bring some of you now may have been involved in this earlier on in the year, but a new package we're looking to put together titled Coach Cymru will hopefully be live before the end of the year. Coach Cymru aims to support all coaches, regardless of the level you're working at, but it's primarily aimed at the grassroots game in Wales. The short video clip here now will give you a brief overview of what Coach Cymru looks like and how we look to support coaches with online resources, session plans, podcasts. They'll have expert speakers. They'll also have experts from the grassroots game, coaches such as yourselves from your own world, passing on experience, good practice, session tips, ideas and resources all at your fingertips. It'll be broken down very simply, so you can grab sessions on the move. So if you're running late, there's the ideas there of how to get a session up and running quite quickly, and how then the session ideas are embedded within the Welsh Way. There's a series of Welsh Way moves you'll have seen hopefully on our social media channels over the last few weeks. Those moves have been released, but the site will be into an app also that you can have on your phone. It'll also be interactive, so you can engage with discussion with coaches throughout Wales as well. So hopefully a little bit of positive news as well that'll come over the coming weeks. Again, if there's any questions, hopefully you've had time to grab my email address. But equally, if you put a question in the box, I'll do my best to answer it for you this evening. Thanks very much, Alex. Evening all. I'm aware it's gone slightly quiet at the moment. It appears we're having a little bit of a connection issue at the minute. I'm aware there's a number of questions coming through on the Q&A. So during the period where Aled's looking to jump back online, if you do want to put down any specific questions into the Q&A box, we'll continue to work through those and provide a response as quick as we can for you.
Hi Andy, sorry. Can you hear me, Andy?
Yeah, I think you're back now, Al.
Sorry, I think I dropped off there. Technology wasn't my friend there for 2 minutes, but I think hopefully you can all hear me. It did give me a quick chance just to pick up on a couple of those questions, which I'll just try and answer quickly for you now. So we had a question related to whether if you've got a junior and senior section within a club and you've got 2 separate committees, but you've only got 1 Comet Club account, the information that will be transferred over to your Comet Club application will be the information that's detailed on your Comet Club account. So if you have got 2 sections, you'll have to make a decision on who the club secretary will be on the Comet Club account for accreditation purposes. So that's a decision that you'll need to make as a club, and whether you want to amend those roles and officials' roles as we on your Comet Club account for the purposes of an accreditation application. In terms of a really valid question that we had related to the adding teams mid-season. So if leagues permit you to enter a club, a team, sorry, mid-season, then we will audit that team to ensure that they do club accreditation standards. However, I just want to highlight and make clear that if we will only audit a club's information related to an accreditation level in the summer. So if you do add a new team in January, for example, and you're permitted by your league to join, then we will ensure that that team meets accreditation standards, but we won't amend that club's accreditation level until they submit a new club accreditation application in the following summer. So we won't be amending accreditation levels mid-season, which is why the January mid-season window has been removed. So hopefully that answers that particular questions. We've had a couple of questions regarding leagues being kept in the loop. Yes, we had a webinar with league personnel last week and detailed to them the level of information that they'll receive. So they will receive the correct level of information to be aware of which clubs have submitted accreditation applications and what level those clubs have been awarded. I think those are the main questions in relation to accreditation. They've come up a couple of times. I'll review the questions towards the end. I just want to move on to the COVID-19 specific support section, just so you're aware of the support that's available to you as clubs. And as we highlighted throughout, if you've got any questions related to COVID-19 specific support, then please add them in the box and we'll try and answer them this evening. What we will do as well, because we'll record this webinar, we'll also record the Q&A section. So we'll add all the questions that have been asked into a summary document and then detail the answers in those, which will also be shared with you as a specific resource as well. Just want to really highlight the fantastic work that you as clubs are already doing and almost leading the way in the sports industry in terms of the reaction and the offer of support to your local communities, to the NHS and other key workers during this period. And it's just fantastic to see the role that football is playing in supporting their communities during this period. And particularly when our core business isn't possible to be continued because of the situation we're in. You've adapted new and innovative ways of delivering football activity, other activities, fundraising and it's been brilliant to see. So thank you from us, from the FAW and FAW Trust, for all the work that you're doing. And this is just a snapshot, really, of the fantastic work that's going on amongst you as clubs. So just wanted to highlight in particular, because we've had quite a few questions related to the Sport Wales Emergency Fund over the past few weeks. So just wanted to take the opportunity to make it clear around what the Sport Wales Emergency Fund is there to do and what it's there to support. So the fund was set up to support clubs who are facing immediate financial challenges between a set time period, so the 1st of April to the 30th of June, to cover fixed essential costs. So each eligible club will be able to apply for a maximum of £5,000, although there have been 3 panel meetings to award money to date, and there hasn't been a £5,000 award sort of agreed as yet. The general amount that's been offered is between 2,000 and 3,000, and obviously depends on the application that a club submits. But generally, it's between that £2,000 and £3,000. Where there hasn't been, there's been a bit of confusion amongst clubs is what the fund is there to support. So in terms of those fixed costs, it's particularly around those rental costs, utility costs, insurance costs, any facility or equipment hire where there's a particular fixed cost, possibly an agreement, a rental agreement or lease agreement, possibly, for example, around a tractor or any facility maintenance equipment. Any activities or costs that cannot be covered by government funding sources. There are a number of government schemes and support packages available. So anything that isn't covered by there could be eligible through the fund. And it has also supported some clubs who have seen some damage related to the storms we had pre-virus, and the damage in particular to facilities that has caused. So what they won't fund as part of the emergency fund is any activities or costs which are already covered by other government support packages and funding. Any particular new activities that have been established during this period, those unfortunately aren't eligible. Any capital works that isn't related to any flood damage through the storms, and any particular costs beyond the end of June, so end of the time period that they set out of this year. So I want to really highlight and emphasize that they are being very strict on the eligibility criteria. So we would advise you to contact them in advance of your application if you're thinking of applying, just to check whether you would be eligible, rather than go through the application process and then find that you may not be eligible. There will be a second phase of support that Sport Wales are looking to offer, which at the moment is termed the Resilience Fund, and that will look to support clubs with the longer term impact that the virus has had, and it won't be around a set particular time frame that the emergency fund has been around. The time frame of the next phase of support isn't confirmed yet, but it's likely to be towards the end of the existing emergency fund time frame, so towards the end of June and early July. We hope that there'll be more details around the Sport Wales Emergency Fund released over the next few weeks. All other Sport Wales grant programmes at the moment are suspended, so if you weren't aware, the Community Chess Programme Development Grant and a Place for Sport programme have been suspended for the time being, to ensure that resources can be allocated to the emergency fund initially, but also longer term the resilience fund, which will support clubs with a longer term impact, as I said. Just to highlight some further support, so Business Wales released an economic resilience fund that was going to be quite applicable to a number of our football clubs. Unfortunately, the fund has now been paused following 9,000 applications, and we haven't had any guidance from Business Wales as yet whether that fund will reopen once they process the 9,000 applications, because that fund did have a a set amount of money allocated to it. So it depends whether that amount of money, that set amount of money, has been allocated once the 9,000 applications have been processed. In better news, we received information late last week that charities and community amateur sports clubs could be eligible for up to £10,000 support to help them respond to the financial challenges of COVID-19. We're hopeful that there'll be more information released by Business Wales later this week. But it would be for charitable organisations or casks that have a rateable value of £12,000 or below. Once we know information from Business Wales later this week, we will be sending out guidance to clubs who we think will be eligible for this fund, and particularly sending out guidance as well around how you can calculate your rateable value, and some further information on that, and how you could apply for that. So it may be applicable to you if you're a cask, registered as a cask, or you're a charitable organisation, then this could be a grant that could support you as a club over the coming months. And just to highlight some wider support, so obviously Andy alluded to the Welsh Way videos that are on our social media. There's also the McDonald's Fun Football activities that are available and shared on our social media. They're also available on our website, so please take a look at those if you haven't already. I know a number of you have, because I've seen a lot of them shared on social media already, which is great. We've also got a live feed around some of the good news stories, the great work that our clubs are doing. So I've highlighted a couple of them already. But if you click on the link that I'll share with you as part of the presentation, you'll get to see and find out all the stories about the great things that some of our football clubs are doing, and also possibly giving you some ideas about what you could be doing as football clubs if you and add to the great work that's already going on. We're in the process of putting together a series of podcasts that will look at some club development areas of work, and identifying some best practice amongst our network of clubs that we want to share with you. Some of them will be COVID related in terms of the work that's going on amongst our clubs, but some of them will be non-COVID related around specific themes and areas of club operations. So we're hopeful we'll be able to release some of those over the coming weeks. I'll share with you a business continuity planning template that we've put together, and that's available to support you as clubs, to help you in planning some of your financial risks, and how you can plan to sort of mitigate some of those risks moving forward. I'm pulling together a video guide that will be available tomorrow, that will also be shared with you as an additional resource that will help guide you through that business continuity template. So hopefully you'll find that as a useful resource. You don't have to use it if you've got one that you're already using yourself, then great. It's just a template we've put together to help clubs in terms of understanding that process, and to sort of complete that and undertake that process during this particular period, which we feel will be really useful for you to help plan for the coming months. We are aware that Business Wales have actually released a series of digital courses and webinars over the next few weeks. Some of them will include some financial training, communication and marketing webinars as well. I'd advise you to have a look at those. Some of them won't be relevant, but there are some, particularly around online engagement and online communication, that could be really useful for you as clubs. So again, there's a link on the presentation that I'll share with you there. And over the coming weeks, we're looking to pull together a club support survey, which we'll encourage as many clubs as possible to complete, which we want to try and identify some of the specific challenges that you as clubs are facing during this particular period, and possibly what support you've already accessed, whether that's through the Sport Wales Emergency Fund or through other government sources. And what we will look to try and do as well is ensure that support survey will be a prerequisite in terms of before you apply for any support through the Resilience Fund, so we can ensure that the right clubs are prioritised when awarding any funding through the Sport Wales Resilience Fund. So I'll just check on the Q&A just in terms of any questions related to any COVID. I don't think there's any particular questions relating to funding. I don't think. So I'll just highlight a couple of questions related to the club accreditation program that have been coming in since my presentation on the COVID support, or while I was off comms, unfortunately. We've had a question around, will fun football and huddle programs still count on accreditation? Yeah, it still count in terms of the community program, and they'll be that will be in section 3 and the club provision. So they will still count towards that community program section for gold and platinum level. In terms of support for achieving higher accreditation level, it's a good question around Sport Wales grants. I know that they are reviewing the grants program. It was under review pre-coronavirus, and obviously the virus has put a stop to that in particular. But they are looking at reviewing the grants program, so in particular community chest and development grants. And we hope that there'll be some more flexibility related to accessing higher level coaching qualifications, which would support you as clubs to achieve higher accreditation. Based on circumstances, will external first aid qualifications be accepted until we get coaches on the FAW first aid course? That's a very good question. Obviously, we amended the regulation related to first aid courses recently. So at the moment, there's no change in terms of that regulation. So we do ask for an FAW first aid course, but there are some exceptions that we do consider in terms of those who undertake, who have a medical profession as a vocation, or that have a first aid at work 3-day minimum course. But we will review that, and if we do have to show some flexibility related to first aid qualifications, then we will make sure that we show you as clubs as much flexibility as possible. Just running through some of the other questions related to just accreditation. So we've had a question there around if a club keeps being accredited the same award each year due to limited volunteers, is there room to move along the awards? Some of the tick boxes are unachievable. So again, good question. So the criteria that we've set between the different levels from standard to platinum are development goals for clubs. So the clubs would need to achieve those criteria and work towards those goals to achieve that particular level. That's why the levels are aspirational levels, because we feel that they play a significant role in the development of clubs. So they would need to achieve the criteria at all the criteria at each of the levels to achieve that particular level. We had a really good question actually in terms of if the award if accreditation level drops between each season, will the officer indicate the reasons why, in terms of helping you as clubs to identify what the issues? So yeah, that would be factored in as part of the action plan process and the communication that you would get through the COMET system in terms of identifying what you would need to have in place to either regain your level or hopefully move to a higher level. But we would identify what has possibly dropped, or what you do not have in place in comparison to a previous season that has impacted on your accreditation level. I think we had a question there just in terms of team helpers. So they can be added onto the onto your Comic Club account, and because they would be added under the coaches section, because they would obviously need a DBS, but obviously they wouldn't need a coaching qualification, so they can be added in under your Comic Club account, and then be added and attached to a team at any age group. I think we've covered the majority. I think there's quite a few. Few of the remaining questions are related to coach education or Comet. So one of the things that we'll, as I said, we will do is ensure that these questions we'll note down and we'll summarize in a document, in an FAQs document that we'll share with you as an additional resource, and hopefully be able to, in a position to share that with you tomorrow. The recording of the webinar will be shared with you tomorrow as well, alongside the template for a business continuity plan for you as clubs to undertake and to complete. Hopefully you've found it informative and there have been some useful pieces of information for you. Thanks very much for joining us, and apologies for the loss of comms halfway through, but thanks for sticking with us, and have a great evening. And as I said, we'll summarize the questions that we had, and those that we may not have answered live or typed an answer, we will add those answers to the summary document that we will share with you tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good evening.